Welcome to a ZD Racing 1920 version 3 in-depth review. The things I'll be covering is 1. Why it's in pieces, the differential housings, bent axles, UV joints, tight dog bones, the center differential, buckled wheels, and my plans to rebuild it. Okay, so let's get to why it's in pieces. Okay, so I gave it a drive a couple of times, 2 times with a 4S LiPo, and it was running pretty well. I didn't push it too hard. But then it started making a noise, like a grinding noise. The differentials it just started grinding. And I'd done some research online and found out that, you need to shim the diffs. And obviously I looked inside and I've cleaned out all the grease. So it turns out that, there's no shims in here. Normally where are they? They're here. Normally they put these little shims in here, in between the bearing and the diff housing, to give the diff a little bit of movement away from the pinion. So what I found out is that, you see, if I turn that, if you can see that there, you see how I'm turning that, but it's rubbing, this part here is rubbing on the inner side of the diff housing. And I mean, that's create so much friction. It's absolutely, it's terrible. That's one thing that I'm really not happy about. I contacted the place where I brought them from, and thankfully they've sent me some new diff housings. But the thing is that they seem to be, that seems to be the same deal. We've still got, I've actually got a shim on there. They seem to be molded in such a way that they're angled inwards. You see, there's like a bow. It's bowing inwards there and bowing inwards there. I don't know if that's because of when that comes out of the mold, because they're injection molded, they might be still hot and they shrink a little bit. Now I've been thinking about using a hot one of these, making up some sort of wooden insert and then heating it up with this. But what could potentially happen is that it could shrink. I could shrink this even more. So if you've got any ideas or suggestions as to how I could remove the bow, then that's basically what I'm trying to do there. And I've also got some new diffs. So hopefully, see, you can hear that rubbing. This is a brand new unused diff housing and differential, and it's still rubbing. Mind you, it's not shimmed, but at least with this one I've got a bit of room to actually put shims in, whereas the one that I've used already, there's just no way I can even fit a shim in there because it's too angled. Right, so that's covering some of why it's in pieces and the diff housing. Now I'll move on to the bent axles. When I first got it, all of these axles, if I can get that out, there we go. So these were axles from the front, they were bent. I don't know how it happened. Maybe, well, when I received the packaging, the box, it was all crushed. Packaging was completely crushed. It was like a pancake, and I'm like, wow, I hope whatever's in there survived. And I think what happened is when the packaging, when it got shipped, the dog bones must have got pressed down and crushed or something like that, because they were all bent, and I had to put them in a vise, and I gently just moved it back and until I got a perfectly straight dog bone. It's not very nice to buy something brand new and find that it's got bent dog bones. Also, another thing that I noticed with the dog bones is that if you look here, this little pin that goes through here, every single dog bone, and even the ones that were in here that connects the center diff to the main differential, all of those pins were not they weren't even, so it was pushed through too far on one side, so that when it goes into the cup, it would wear the cup on one side a lot. I mean, lots of things like that. And also, what I'll also cover is the fact that one of these universal joints, when I first, so tight, like it was seized completely. I couldn't even, they normally just, they move like that, right? So I couldn't even turn it. So I had to get valve grinding paste and put it all in the parts where it was stiff, and then I worked it like that back and forward with valve grinding paste, and until it became a little bit free, and then I washed it off in turpentine, got it all out, got all the valve grinding paste out, and yeah, I had to get that working like that. But I mean, it's just all those little things where the quality is not there. The quality control and the attention to the little fine details of quality, they're not there. They're not doing it. So don't get me wrong, I'm not making this to say don't buy a ZD racing car. I'm not saying they're bad or anything like that. I mean, I'm saying that if you do decide to get one, be prepared to spend a little bit of time just getting everything worked over, and you may have to file a few things. Only got one of these in here at the moment, but as you can see, normally you'd have 4 of these. I think this is the rear or front, or yeah, the rear one. I mean, the shocks are good. They look really good. They're really good oil-filled shocks. That's out of the box. It's probably the best part about them, and it's the most attractive thing when you see this car. You see the nice ZD Racing shocks. They look really good, and it's unfortunate that when you actually buy them, there's a lot of things wrong with them. So as you can see, what I've actually done, I brought this with I didn't buy this car with the stock ESC and motor and radio. I actually went and brought my own. I ordered the empty chassis and brought my own ESC and motor. So what have we got? We've got a Hobby. It's a Hobby Wing 2200 kV easy run. And of course I've actually put my own pinion on the motor, because the one it came with, absolute shocking. The quality was just mud. Right, let's discuss now is the tightness of the dog bones in the cups. Okay, so this is a brand new, unused differential. We'll just give it a bit of a wipe because some of the silicone oil has leaked out. That's alright though. So when you put the dog bone into here, oh yeah, that one fits quite well. Here we go. You see now, oh no, that's actually pretty good too. That's interesting. Well, that didn't work for my example. Well, you know, I can still talk about it, I guess. What happens is that when I got my vehicle, I put the dog bone into here, and it was so stiff, so incredibly stiff. It had zero tolerance. So I had to grab a file and actually file away a lot of the groove there, so that my dog bones would actually fit. So that's it's interesting that fits now. Pretty good. So that's another thing that I had to work through. Right, center differential. I had to order actually I tried to get them to send me another center differential, because what actually happened is the teeth on the spur gear, were cut on an angle. I actually have that. I have the gear here. This is the center differential that I took apart. You know, some of the bits in here I can probably still use them if I blow the center diff one day. But if you can see here, I'll try and hold this perfectly straight. Right. And you can see there that they're on an angle compared to the good one. You see, if you see both of them together, you should be able to see that one is the teeth is cut on an angle, and one the teeth are cut straight. This is a good one. This is a bad one. I don't understand why they would release a car that someone, you know, people say these are cheap cars. Actually, they're not really that cheap. When you add it all up, they're not that cheap. My goal is to try and, without spending too much more money on it, my goal is to try and make it work as it should, as I would expect for the price that I paid. You know, they're cheap, but yet they're not dirt cheap. They do still have a bit of a price to them. So all of these wheels that come with it, it's they're all buckled. You know, they're all wobbly. They're not balanced. They're misshapen. They're squashed. In fact, one of them was so bad that my plan was to try and remove the rubber. So I boiled it in water for like 10 minutes to try and remove the super glue from the rim. And the plastic shrank. So the plastic shrank, so I could no longer get it onto the 17mm nut that goes on here. So it wouldn't fit on there. So I've completely ruined all of the wheels by boiling one of them. It's just the cheap plastic, I guess. So I've gone ahead and brought these on-road wheels. They were pretty decent. I just have to wait till I get my glue set so I can glue them up. and they're about the same size as the standard tires that come with them. They fit on, and my plan for this car is to make it mainly on-road only, because I feel that driving it on the grass and driving it dirt, well, mainly just grass, it can cause a lot of wear in your dog, in the dog, but into the cups. You know, you'll see it, that you'll start to develop a little cut where the dog bone actually starts to cut into the cup. And I mean, that can happen just after a couple of times of driving your car in long grass. So to try and avoid wear like that, I'm going to convert this car to an on-road vehicle. So hopefully we can get that all installed. And yeah, so my plan is to rebuild it and get it all functioning so it can work. This is basically the first episode of that plan. So I might, I'll probably be making a couple videos of how I go about fixing these differential housings and the process I do to put it all back together. Yeah, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed watching, and this is my first this is my first main YouTube video where I've actually taken attempts to add some structure to it, and yeah, so yep, that's it, finished.